Hey, welcome to the Foster Fathers Podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Kyle.
And this is a podcast all about foster care, adoption, and fatherhood.
We hope that you feel welcome. We hope that you feel that you belong. And we're glad that you're here to share this time with us.
Let's go.
Hello, folks.
Howdy, howdy.
Welcome to the Foster Fathers Podcast.
Yeah.
We have another stimulating conversation for you.
Stimulating. Okay. I'm into that.
Well, I mean, I hope it does. I hope it does something.
Yeah.
Would be nice if it was like, wow, that was good. You know, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But we're here.
Some people have said that they've listened to it, and some people have said it's not the worst thing I've ever listened to. So
one person
that's
was
good
like,
enough
so
for us.
one of my friends says, "Wow, man, this is really impressive. I'm totally surprised." And I'm all,
what does that mean?
totally surprised. I can't quite tell if that's a compliment.
No. So here's the thing: is I am I'm what I call a husky boy. I'm a little bit bigger than I probably should be.
Okay. Strong. Husky means strong. Yeah.
Oh, so I'm not husky then? Is that what you're saying? Anyways, I've been known to play some softball, some indoor soccer.
Okay.
And I remember I've gotten this quite a few times, to be honest, where I'll play soccer.
You're faster than I thought you'd be. Yeah.
And at the end they go, "Wow, dude, you're kind of a lot faster than I thought you'd be." And I was like, I don't know what you mean by that.
Yeah. It's like what people tell me. Hey, you really clean up well.
Yeah.
So what do I look like the rest of the time?
Pretty terrible, to be honest. Anyways,
All right, dude. Well, guys,
we're talking about some fun things today.
Dude,
Maybe not so fun.
Let's start it off though with This Week in Foster Care. You had a really cool one. Here's a little piece of trivia, so you can take this to all of your little gatherings, get-togethers, bar hops where you go do trivia. Chris has got a good one. So, what's your week in foster care, Chris?
I am a massive Padres fan. It's probably a problem. San Diego Padres. I'm actually not wearing a Padres hat today. Wow,
it's the first time in 5 episodes.
It's been a while. Yeah,
you can go back and look. I'm
almost
sure,
always like 90% of the time wearing a San Diego Padres hat. Hometown. Love baseball. Grew up playing baseball. Blah blah blah. The Yankees, husky boy.
Kids play.
Yeah, sure.
Baseball.
And so Yankees roll into town and they kick our butts. They destroy us, to be honest. Juan Soto's now Yankee, not a Padre. Anyways,
nobody knows
cares
what that means, but keep going.
Yep. Aaron Judge kicks our butt. He hits like 4 home runs against us.
For people who don't know, because I barely know. I mean, Aaron Judge is
the center field for the New York Yankees.
Okay.
Great dude.
All-star?
Oh, yeah. Massive. He's one of the faces of the MLB right now.
Okay.
Come to find out, I just like kind of looked him up. You know, you can click on the app, like the stats and what he's doing and stuff. And I just get to reading his story. And a few clicks in, they tell us like one of this newspapers or something wrote a whole story on Aaron Judge. And come to find out he was an adopted kid.
Wow.
I believe out of foster care.
Sweet.
And you go, whoa. That's amazing. Out of, I think, Northern California, an adopted child. And then by the time, one of the cool parts that I thought was really awesome that the author put in there was that by the time adolescence, teenage years came in, you could tell by Aaron Judge looking at his parents that he is adopted. I mean, Aaron Judge is like 6'8", and his parents are 2 very white people that are not 6'8". And he said, but these are my parents. Like, I didn't feel the need to look for my biological parents. The love covered it all. And, you know, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But I just think once you start to look, foster care adoption's everywhere.
It's prevalent, very prevalent.
It's very much in.
Good and bad. It's all around.
Yeah. And in this case, the bad was that the Yankees destroyed the Padres.
Dang it, dude. Yeah. Such a good story for such a bad ending, dude. I can't believe he would do that. Why would he?
He did that personally. I think he did that to upset me specifically.
Yeah, that's not fair. To give you conflicted feelings about him. Which it does remind me of that scene from, I don't know if what was that movie, Instant Family with Mark Wahlberg, where the lady's all, I'm looking for athletically inclined 6'5" potential basketball player.
That family found it.
Oh, that's so funny.
And I think Aaron Judge got $450 million.
So if the state payments aren't enough, there's always a hope your kid could become a pro athlete.
Yeah. That's what I'm hoping for. Okay.
You listen. my bare minimum expectation is that we can undo some of the trauma and negative like upbringing that my kids have experienced. And I'm like, if my kids can just be semi-functioning members of society, that's a total win.
My bare minimum for my daughter is college softball. She doesn't know that yet. No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
Dude, the way she was throwing that diaper in your story today, she probably could wing a softball. That's for sure.
My daughter decided to throw a diaper all around our bedroom. Not my bed, her bedroom. This couple of days ago. And it's disgusting.
But that's not foster care. That's just parenting.
That's parenting.
Dude. Yeah.
The like absorbent gel was just everywhere. Oh, that was not great. Okay, well, that leads us into our topic today.
Yeah. You say it.
But you're going to tell me why we're talking about this today. And the topic today is, why is foster care and adoption hard?
Why is it so hard? Well, I mean, my idea behind it is, full disclosure, I'm having a hard day.
Oh, buddy.
I'm having a hard day. No. I mean, I didn't sleep well last night.
Has something to do with it.
Yeah, but outside of that, nothing in particular, of course, for like the 5th day running, my kids disobeyed at breakfast, and it's just, breakfast, this 15-minute ordeal turns into 45 minutes, and then all of a sudden we're late and everything's behind and I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
But it just,
But we started a podcast. We're not allowed to be those kind of parents.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. I'm perfect, and all I have is great information of everything that I do so well. And I think it just made me. It put me in a mood to say, you know what? I don't want to talk necessarily positive. I don't want to talk negatively.
Yeah.
But I don't want to. I want to at least get an episode out there where it's like, it's just kind of raw and unedited, and I also want to the why, because this is something I really want to focus on, and we've talked about this, is I want if you're listening out there and you're like, dude, this is the toughest thing that I've ever been through, or I am unraveling mentally, or I don't know what to, I want you to know that, like,
same.
I'm not the most experienced dude in this, but I have enough experience to know this is not an easy process. Parenting is never easy, and then there's a lot of additional dynamics. And so, I mean, really, we're just going to toss out some examples and ideas. It's not going to be anything like super in depth psychologically, but just some things where it's like, here's some real world experiences on what makes this hard. Yeah. Right. And if you want to I'll just take away with one. I mean, foster care is hard because these are not your biological kids.
Call it what it is. You can love these kids as much as you want, and you should, and hopefully you do.
Yep, and they can be
fundamentally
yours.
They are.
And I remember, when we went to your adoption, and this is the point where I think I started like crying the most, was they said, do you assume all, and I just signed the paperwork because we're getting near. So I signed it, and they'll repeat it. I'm sure the judge will repeat it, but it says, do you assume full rights of whatever guardianship for this kid, even to the point of like they have all the rights of all your biological kids. I think is one of the statements that it made. And like, I realized that as you go to adopt a kid, like by law, even in your mind, right? Even in your mind, like, this kid is mine. I love them the same as I love, but biologically there is a separation, and for your situation, you take your youngest dude right now, and it's still up in the air, what his outcome will be. But day 2, he knew you were dad. Day 2, Tracy was mom, right? For my kids, though, there's a separation of, I am not dad, right? And I have a better chance at this all than Jessica does, unfortunately, because like my kids' we have 3-ish, like 3-ish dads. And they were all just disastrous dudes. I know at least 2 of them are still in jail. Anyways, I'm sorry if I'm expressing too much, dude.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I can't help but laugh. You got to laugh at this. But anyways, all that to be said, I have the easier case of it because they have
no context.
They have less context to negative context of father figures.
Fair. Yeah.
But they have, even as disrupted as it was, they do still look at their mom fondly. And so there is, think of their mom in a fond way. And so, I mean, there is just this. The number one thing is like there will be this mental barrier at the very least,
absolutely.
a biological barrier on their end that normal's not normal, and so that's the first thing that I notice is it is hard because, all of a sudden you have an 8-year-old that you haven't known for 8 years. All of a sudden you have a 2-year-old that you haven't known. Yeah, you didn't know for 2 years,
Yeah.
So I think that's first and foremost one of the things that I noticed that makes this hard.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I just think to summarize, I was trying to think of what I would say, but I would just encapsulate it, including what you kind of just said, was that foster care and adoption is just kind of an uphill battle.
Yeah.
It's like almost every single instance of parenting, there's just a harder, leaning to it. An attitude is an attitude, and parenting involves attitudes. An attitude born out of trauma is a different attitude than an attitude.
Yeah.
And there's a question that's being asked past and deeper maybe than, my mom is being a jerk. Well, it's like my mom's being a jerk, but maybe my other mom wouldn't have been.
Right.
And there's just dealing with all of that stuff. So why is foster care and adoption so hard? It's just an uphill battle in almost every instance. Yeah. And there's people I've met that have done it so well and had kids just not respond well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I look at them and say, if I'm half the parent they are,
right,
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
And we've seen kids just do something wrong.
Yeah, to piggyback on top of that, I mean, especially early on, there was a season, when our kids were, their emotions were so heightened.
Yeah.
That you couldn't do anything right.
Mm-hmm.
They would have reacted to anything. There was one time our little girl in first grade, dude, it was like day 2, might have even been day 1. And I'm brand new. I've never had a kid in elementary school.
Instance.
I've never had, I'm like,
period.
I'm like a year into parenting, and I've never had a kid in grade school, and I didn't do the exchange with her teacher the way that she wanted to after school, and all of a sudden we're in the parking lot, and she is screaming at me, and I'm sure that other people have experienced similar things with the kids that they grew up with.
Yeah.
But this is the thing that it was triggered for her because when a kid experiences trauma, their life spins out of control.
Yeah.
And so she's trying to maintain as much control as possible so that everything needs to be a certain specific way. For her is birthed out of trauma.
Yeah.
And then for me, it's the hard part. Why is this so hard? Because I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what she's experiencing. I don't know. Number one, I don't know how to parent. Right? Like I don't know how to parent. I've never had at that point. She was 6. I'd never had a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
I had a kid who's 8, and I never had a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here. I don't. And then. Secondly, I don't know what it is in her that's triggered this. If she had lived with me for longer than 2 weeks, I would have had some context, right? So here's let's just put another stamp on it. Another reason why foster care is so hard is because you don't actually know the history. You don't know what they've experienced. You don't know how they have reacted. Sometimes, you can precondition a situation to say, hey, I know my kid's going to do this. Here's how I'm going to react. For me, like I don't know. I don't know how to help her adjust to this.
Well, and then you also, I don't know, to varying degrees people believe this, but, a lot of the struggles that a parent has, often kids struggle with something similar. Well, you may know what that is, and maybe your parents and you, with maybe in relation to your father, you don't know their dad, you don't know their mom, really. I mean, you know what they are told, but I mean, if there's patterns that exist in a family, you don't have that full context either.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing where you can go, well, I can see how my dad does this, so maybe I'm prone to do something similar. And oftentimes I think it's true. Yeah. And you may go, well, it's like a chip off the old block, isn't it? And
they got that one from me. They learned that from me.
Well, here you go. I don't know.
Where did this come from?
Yeah. Maybe that he is just like his dad, but I don't know who that guy is. So what? Right. That's a huge one. Yeah. Context is huge. Yeah. And I think the other one is, and this is another one, but it's not necessarily specific to foster care and adoption, although it it exists in both parenting and the journeys that we're on.
Yeah, and this is why we have you on the podcast, is because you actually have biological kids.
Yeah.
So you have context for some of this.
Well, a lot of times things are hard because you're trying to do something good.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to let your kids be out of control, terrible humans, it would be easy.
Yeah.
And in my biological kids, the same way. Like, if my oldest son, I'm like, hey, you can eat whatever you want and you can go to bed whenever you want. Guess who's going to be, like, doing whatever he wants? Me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, this is easy. This is, I don't care what you eat because, you know. But specifically in foster care and adoption, dude, like, you're trying to do something good and you're trying to reverse some other things that have happened. Yeah. And then you're also trying to do good and raise good kids born out of a terrible situation.
Right. Goes back to one of our previous episodes that talked about, you know, is foster care good or bad? Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it's like, well, it's good, but there's a bad situation. And so, you're right. You're starting from a deficit. Yep. You're already starting. So keep going. Keep expanding on that.
No, I mean, that's all I had on that one, my friend. You got another one?
I think for me, you know, stepping into to grade school kids, one of the really hard things, and we're starting to get a little bit of traction, but I remember in our training, it was Pride that we took kind of the prefacing, and it was so hard. I don't know how much I actually learned from that, because it's great information, but you have no context to apply it, you know, to filter it through. So now some of that stuff sticks out more, but they were talking about, you're going to bring in a kid and they're going to have like 5 different ages in one age. You know, they're going to have their biological, physical age, their biological age. They're going to have a physical age, right? Because some of these kids might be undernourished, underdeveloped. They might be, you know, they're going to have a different mental age. They're going to have a different emotional age. They're going to have a different academic age. And so what we've experienced is that, you know, if in a kid in a stable environment, they generally, all of those things mature, all of those age groups, age categories.
Kind of in the same thing we've been together.
Yep. You know, and some kids are more academically inclined, so they're going to be, you know, they're going to be reading at a 4th grade level and they're only in 2nd grade. But for our kids, you know, the trauma caused them to experience different. COVID hit right when our kids were in school, right? Well, everybody else logged their kid onto, and they at least got some exposure to an education. Our kids didn't even go. Yeah. You know, you know, there's so many school situations that they didn't do. Nobody read to them at night. Yeah. Nobody engaged in a conversation with them. You know, those types of things, which are so critical to a kid's development. Yeah. And I'm not saying, I mean, not every single foster kid is our situation, but this is one easy thing, is that your kid will have experienced things. Yeah. So they will be immature in different categories, and especially like that emotional, mental piece when you've experienced trauma, when nobody's been there to help you process. You know, our 4-year-old went from probably 1.5 until 3 years old, relatively unparented. So there's a lot of things that, and even though he, like, verbally he couldn't have processed any of that, and he wouldn't have had any context, that was normal to him. Yeah. But there's so many developmental milestones that he didn't get that he is now getting, and so it's hard, because here is this kid coming in who has not been raised socially normally, and you're trying to communicate. One of these guys that we met, he's like, dude, I had this 2-year-old who couldn't talk. I'm trying to manage this. You know, I'm trying to manage this 2-year-old, and I can't interpret the kid's needs because they cannot use words. You know, and this dude had never been a parent before. So I mean, that's a hardship. You're facing, and we kind of chuckle about it because it's kind of, I mean, it's a little bit It's kind of a funny situation to look back on. But it's, I mean, in that moment, like, this kid is afraid, feels alone, and cannot communicate because nobody actually helped them develop that. So,
well, in summary, foster care is hard. Yeah. Adoption's hard.
Yeah, very.
But let me switch this a little bit.
Okay.
You had a hard day. What do you need to hear? Counsel yourself out of this and to persevere, how to keep going. I mean, someone maybe on the other side of this speaker, I don't know, audio transmission, may be like, okay, it sucks. I'm doing it. Yeah. Why am I doing this? Like all those feelings, all those emotions.
Yeah, dude.
They exist.
And to tie it in, because this is one of the things that I think makes it hard, is they talk. You talk about dad guilt, mom shame, whatever it is, and that's real. I mean,
absolutely.
I'm not a strong person on like, oh, this kid has a brand new pair of tennis shoes and I don't, or this mom parented this way and I didn't. But I am one of those people. I when I lash out on my kids, I will berate myself for the next hour, right? And talking with a friend of mine who had biological kids, and they were, I think, 6 or something when they then decided to adopt or get into foster care and ended up adopting. And he said, raising my first kid, I never had, I never had the emotional responses. I always felt like I could manage. I felt, civilized and balanced.
Yeah.
And he said, but when we started doing foster care, there was the emotional toll, brought a little bit more havoc to my brain. And I started getting angrier. I started getting more frustrated.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like myself. And I guess that I would say that the emotional toll can add an additional, this isn't just standard. This isn't just innocent parenting. This is heavy, hard parenting.
Yeah.
And so what I heard today was, I was listening to a podcast on the way over here, and actually the lady was saying, you're a good person who does bad things, right? And you are doing a good thing as a whole. Freaking out at your kids, or how not exercising all of your restraint that you should have is bad.
Yeah.
But you are still a good and I think that that's very true. Is when you experience as much of an emotional upheaval as foster care and adoption can bring, where like we were saying, is you're going from 0 to 60. Yeah. You're going from whatever, maybe you had 3 kids and you adopted 2 kids, maybe, whatever it is, maybe you skipped foster care, you went right into adoption, but like,
maybe you had no kids and you have 4.
And now you have 4. But you're going, I mean, you're shifting gears, you're shifting gears so fast, your speed is going so quick that your brain, your mind, your heart, all of it cannot keep up. And so when I finally got off my self-deprecating bandwagon, because there's a lot of me, I just love grouping up on myself and just berating myself. But when I finally got off of that, what I needed to hear was, hey, dude, like, this is not who you are.
Yeah.
Like you have changed, your temperament has changed due to your circumstances.
Yeah.
But then what I also need to hear is like, don't stop the fight, because you got to get back to that point.
Yeah.
You got to get back to that point, because these kids deserve, both myself and my kids deserve to have a loving, caring, invested dad. Yeah. And so often I am. Yeah. And it's not, when that stuff comes through, it's not necessarily me. It's what the emotional toll has done on me.
And I think people, and I do this myself for sure, you start to count yourself out, and you start to maybe think, wow, maybe I shouldn't be their dad, or
maybe I'm not fit for foster care,
or like I made it worse for these kids.
Oh, dude, yeah, I've had that one.
And I felt that one. Actually, I feel like I did this worse, and you're like, yeah. I mean, you're just like, dude, those are lies. Yeah, those are things that you should not believe. And I mean, what would the ideal situation with there? You would go, yeah, you know what, you are right. Let me throw these kids back into the system. And you're just like, whoa, well, you did make it worse. Yeah, but like you just gotta gotta hang in there.
And I think that is, if the tagline would be keep fighting. Keep fighting, because it is like, what we talk about, it is a good fight. It is a good thing to fight for. And you're going to get beat up. And one of them is, like, I'm going to beat myself up. But you got to keep fighting.
Well, I think I've said it, like, now. This is, like, probably the 3rd time. But having gone through counseling for this exact situation, I'm trying to do something good. And why is it so hard? And why is it kicking my butt? And it's because you're sacrificing. Yeah. You are putting yourself out there. Parenting in all forms is sacrifice. Yeah. In this specific instance, you are signing yourself up for, like, the hardest version of it. It's like difficulty
super
expert.
Heavy,
and you're like having to pick up a kid off the ground. Yeah. Metaphorically, physically, sometimes, all the stuff. And you're just like, I'm choosing to make fight the good fight.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, some people, maybe you need to hear that. You just need to go, like, keep going.
Yeah.
Reach out to somebody. I think we're gonna film one later.
Yeah. Don't dismiss it.
Yeah.
Don't dismiss it. But don't.
That's what I want to do, though. I just want to not even think about it. But we're gonna talk about mental health. We're gonna talk. I mean, it's a real thing, and I think maybe more than ever, I've realized it's a real thing with foster care and adoption. But you know, how do you prioritize your mental health in the middle of this journey? So we'll talk about that in another episode. But foster care is hard. Adoption is hard.
Yeah, it's really hard.
But
you're not alone, dude.
Yeah.
Keep fighting.
Okay.
Keep fighting.
Later.